And we are live. So, hello, good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, or good whatever time of night or day it happens to be, wherever you happen to be. Welcome to Republic News, Saturday, for this Saturday of the 12th of January, 2019. I am your hostess, Liviana. So, let me just dive right into the news then. The first item that comes across my desk for today is from the 10th of January. It was published on Yahoo News, originally from Good Morning America, and originally published on abcnews.go.com. Rookie Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez fights back after articles wrongly claimed to show nude selfie. The article is by John Parkinson from Good Morning America. Rookie Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez fights back after articles wrongly claimed to show nude selfie originally appeared in abcnews.go.com, as I said. As freshman Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez adjusts to the limelight of Capitol Hill, the New York Democrats' affinity for sharing the experience on social media has generated overwhelming interest, not just from her fans, but from her critics as well. Her interview Sunday on the highly rated CBS program 60 Minutes apparently didn't provide enough content for an internet troll who generated a false narrative featuring a purported nude photo of the self-described radical progressive superstar. Since bursting onto the political scene was a major primary upset of a veteran Democrat, Ocasio-Cortez, 29, the youngest woman ever elected to Congress, has become a prime target for her detractors, mainly conservatives, on the internet. Her latest high-profile moment came Wednesday evening as Ocasio-Cortez slammed the conservative media website The Daily Caller for spreading a story in a tweet that stated, "Here's the photo some described as a nude selfie of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The photo is not of Ocasio-Cortez." So there is a tweet from her, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Quote, "For those out of the loop, Republicans began to circulate a fake nude photo of me. The Daily Caller reported it and refused to indicate it was fake in the title as well. Completely disgusting behavior from conservative outlets. No wonder they defended Kavanaugh so fiercely," end quote. The Daily Caller responded by not only deleting the tweet, but also removing the full story from its website, excusing itself as the third media outlet to publish stories about a post on Reddit and 4chan where the photo first appeared, and falsely charged that in 2016, Ocasio-Cortez shared the photo to her Instagram account where a woman's breasts reflected off a bathtub faucet. Yeah, well, you know, I don't know why these news media outlets keep taking 4chan seriously. 4chan has trolled the mainstream media repeatedly, and the mainstream media seems to continue to fall for it. Newsflash, guys, 4chan is probably not the most reliable source of news. Anyway, so, the Daily Caller then tweeted, quote, "As soon as editors noticed the Twitter headline, we rapidly had it deleted and fixed. The story itself is otherwise no different than what HuffPo and Vice published. We regret the error as the intent was to inform our audience that a fake image was circulating online," end quote. So, Ocasio-Cortez replied in a tweet, quote, "A, this is not an apology. B, you've been posting hysteric, misrepresentative articles about me nonstop, many within 24 hours. The Daily Caller, funded by Tucker Carlson at Fox News, has a well-documented relationship with white supremacy. Unsurprising, they're targeting me," end quote. The photo is not of Ocasio-Cortez, but rather another woman who was once caught in political controversy, Sydney Leathers, who suffered 30 minutes of inside the Beltway fame as a sexting partner of disgraced New York Democratic Representative Anthony Weiner. Leathers blogged an apology to Ocasio-Cortez, writing she was, quote, deeply sorry, end quote, admitting the photo was, quote, an old picture of mine where I'm soaking in the tub, feet up, candle lit, weed vape in hand, end quote. Leathers explained, quote, this is a photo I took several years ago and have since deleted from my Instagram because I now have a no feet for free rule. Oh my God, too many foot fetishists out there, and I don't want to give them free content. The reason the photo is scandalous is because if you zoom in, you can see my boobs in the reflection of the bathtub faucet, end quote. One conservative lawmaker who has recently demonstrated he pays close attention to Ocasio-Cortez's Twitter account, defended her against online trolls. Matt Gaetz, or Getz, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, tweeted, quote, very disgusted at how AOC is treated here and just a little disappointed that nobody even bothered to fake a nude selfie of me, end quote. A spokesman for Ocasio-Cortez declined to add to the Congresswoman's reaction on Twitter. Then the story continues, but that should be enough. These article links will be included in the video description in a bit. So if you'd like to go and check things out for yourself, the articles will be available. I don't think there's a copy of the alleged selfie, so don't get your hopes up. The next article that I have is also about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and it's also about something very important to me. This is from Business Insider. It was published on the, on the 7th of January, and is by Eliza Relman. It's got two different titles. The title at the top of the page says Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on MMT, Modern Monetary Theory, How She'll Pay for Her Policies. And then the title at the top of the body of the text is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says the theory that deficit spending is good for the economy should absolutely be part of the conversation. Let me give a caveat. Deficit spending is not always good for the economy, but the fear-mongering over the deficit, which began with Ronald Reagan, is complete propaganda. We have a sovereign, non-convertible, free-floating fiat currency. The federal government cannot become insolvent in its own currency. The debt everyone is so concerned about is pro forma. It cannot be called or force redeemed. And when it is redeemed in our fiat currency. So as long as we have sufficient resources, we can spend into a deficit. And people are worried about borrowing and taxing, and none of that is relevant. None of that is relevant. So, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says that questions about how she'll pay for her policy proposals are very disingenuous. She has received one question more than any other: how will she pay for her ambitious policy proposals? The newly sworn-in lawmaker told Insider that there were many ways to come up with the funding, including cutting back on military spending, raising taxes on the wealthiest Americans, and deficit spending. Ocasio-Cortez also said that modern monetary theory, which holds that the government doesn't need to balance the budget and that budget surpluses actually hurt the economy, absolutely needed to be part of quote, a larger part of our conversation, end quote. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has received one question more than any other during her short time in the political spotlight: how will she pay for her ambitious policy proposals? The newly sworn-in lawmaker has largely shied away from specifics, and she described the question as, quote, very disingenuous, end quote, in a recent interview with Insider, arguing that critics don't ask it when it comes to defense spending. This is true. You never hear anyone say, how are you going to pay for that, whenever there's an ambitious proposal for a new warplane or a new warship or a new war. no one ever asks that question then. How are you going to pay for it? Well, it's the same answer to the question when it's being asked about social spending. Congress will authorize the spending and the Fed will cut the check. Bam. End. Nothing more to go. Oh, but isn't that going to raise our taxes? No, not necessarily. Taxes don't fund spending. That's another great lie that the American people are told. We have a sovereign fiat currency. The same applies for the United Kingdom and several other nations around the world. When you have a fiat currency, a sovereign fiat currency, free-floating, non-convertible, your central bank pays for it. And the central bank in the United States is authorized to do what it does by our Congress. The only leeway they have is in terms of what specifics they undertake in order to attempt to do what Congress has told them to do, and in setting the interest rate. So, yeah, and you're going to find people who are going to hysterically claim that that the Federal Reserve is a private bank. It's not. Oh, there are regional private banks. No, they're not. No, they're not. I mean, seriously, people, just do a little bit of research. Yes, there are private banks who hold shares in the Federal Reserve System and receive dividends, but the Federal Reserve itself is not a private entity. The chairman of the Federal Reserve is nominated by the president and approved by the Senate. Obviously, there is some government control over the Fed. So anyway, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, back to the article now. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said, quote, "It's not a question that is evenly applied across issues, and it's one that I actually don't think people genuinely are interested in. It's a question that is only targeted to healthcare and education expenditures," end quote. She argues there are myriad ways to fund free college, Medicare for all, a federal jobs guarantee, and the other bold policies she and other progressive Democrats have proposed. Quote, "You can pay for it by saving costs on expenditures that we're already doing. We can do it by saving money on military spending. We can pay for it by raising taxes on the very rich. We can pay for it with a transaction tax. We can pay for it with deficit spending," end quote. Now, there's been a lot of hype about her having proposed a 70% income tax on those making above $10 million a year. What people are either unaware of or misrepresenting is that the tax is only on anything over $10 million. So if you make $10 million, that gets your normal tax rate, but $10 million and one, only that $1 bill over the $10 million is taxed at 70%. $10,500,000, only that $500 over the $10 million is taxed at 70%. That's what she's proposed. So people that are shitting themselves over this need to calm down and actually look at what she has proposed instead of reading some right-wing nut job going out there and trying to lie or being ignorant and talking about things they haven't actually looked into. Let's see. She told Insider, quote, "You recognize that people still ask the question as though I didn't just answer it, because it's not an interest in the actual answer. It's an interest in the attack, and it's an interest in debasing the agenda," end quote. She said she was open to modern monetary theory, a burgeoning theory among some economists, positing that the federal debt is not an economic restraint for the U.S. I'm going to stop here again and say modern monetary theory is a theory in the same sense that the theory of gravity is a theory. It is use of the term in a technical sense. It's not mere speculation as it means to the layperson. And it is an actual empirical account of how our monetary system works and what is possible to be done with it. So it's not like it's some untested thing. We already have this in practice right now. This is how our monetary system works. This is how it works. It's not a theory. It's a description of the operational realities of our monetary system. She said the idea, which holds that the government doesn't need to balance the budget and that budget surpluses actually hurt the economy, quote, absolutely, end quote, needed to be, quote, a larger part of our conversation, end quote. Ocasio-Cortez staked out a more concrete position last week when she told 60 Minutes that she supported taxing super wealthy Americans' incomes, those above $10 million, at a rate of 60% to 70% to boost government revenue. Now again, that only applies to any amount over that $10 million. They're not spelling that out here, I don't think. The comment generated outrage among conservatives who characterized the proposal as radical and received widespread support among progressive economists. Many supporters pointed out that the U.S. maintained a similarly high marginal tax rate on the ultra-rich for nearly 4 decades after World War II, which included the most economically prosperous period in the country's history. This is true. At one point, throughout most of the 1950s, the tax rate was at 90% on the the highest income earners. It fell down, I believe, the first time it got down to near 70% was in 1964, and then it stayed at just above 70% until Ronald Reagan got in office in the presidency. And after that, yeah, things started changing because Ronald Reagan saw himself as the anti-FDR, basically. That's why he wanted to get rid of term limits on the presidency, because he felt like he needed 4 terms to undo what Roosevelt had done. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? What Roosevelt did was to put safeguards in place to prevent another Great Depression, you stupid fuck. But hey, anyway. Let's see. And yeah, so for nearly 4 decades after World War II, a similarly high marginal tax rate on the ultra-rich, and this included the most economically prosperous period in the country's history. This is true also. The 1950s are widely referred to as the decade of prosperity. So, yeah, taxing the rich isn't going to hurt the economy the way that they argue. And then there are people who are going to say, well, they're just going to leave. Yeah, okay. Then we seize their fucking money. God, it's not fucking difficult. Oh, you're stealing their money. No. If they want to pay their fair share, then, they're guilty. Here's the deal, what people don't seem to get. And I hate to quote this because it's from a villain in one of the Batman things, but we live in a society. We do. We live in a society. A society has both responsibilities and duties as well as privileges and rights. You don't get to just take and never give back. You have to give back. Or, in Iron Age heathenry, among the Germans and the Celts, there were 3 classes of criminals who were subjected to a particular type of capital punishment, which was being pressed down into the mud of a bog under a wicker hurdle. Those 3 classes of criminals were traitors, people who were treacherous, who betrayed you, slackers, not those who are unable to work, but those who simply refuse to, those who refuse to contribute to the tribe in its cooperative economy. And defilers of body, which there's a lot of argument about what that exactly means. But what I believe it means is child molesters. There are some people who believe that it refers to homosexuals. I don't think that's the case. Homosexuality was not such a stigma among heathens as it was among some of the Abrahamic tradition. Anyway, I mean, certainly there was a sense of what we today would call machismo among the Romans, but certainly it wasn't looked down upon among the Greeks. The Greeks are somewhat famous or infamous, depending on your perspective, for having had homosexual relations. The name lesbian comes from the island of Lesbos, which is an island in the Greek archipelago, where Sappho, the poetess, wrote her poetry. And her, you may have heard the term sapphic, that is in relation to Sappho, the lesbian, or probably bisexual, to be honest, if you actually look at her poetry. And anyway, so the article continues. The economist and Nobel laureate Paul Krugman argued in a Sunday New York Times op-ed article that Ocasio-Cortez's proposal was, quote, fully in line with serious economic research, end quote, pointing out that a host of leading economists think the optimal top tax rate in the U.S. is at least 73% and possibly more than 80%. Well, I'm pleased that that Krugman is actually saying something sensible for a change, but I do need to point out that referring to him as a Nobel laureate is a bit of a stretch because, let me see, I posted something about this not too long. Yes. Paul Krugman is not, in fact, a Nobel laureate. He was given the prize, the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences, established by the Bank of Sweden in memory of Alfred Nobel. The award's official English name is the Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel. The prize was established in 1968 by a donation from Sweden's central bank, the Riksbank, to the Nobel Foundation to commemorate the bank's 300th anniversary. As it is not one of the prizes that Alfred Nobel established in his will in 1895, it is not a Nobel Prize. Some critics argue that the prestige of the prize in economics derives in part from its association with the Nobel Prizes, an association that has often been a source of controversy. Among them is the Swedish human rights lawyer Peter Nobel, a great-grandnephew of Ludwig Nobel. Nobel criticizes the awarding institution of misusing his family's name, and states that no member of the Nobel family has ever had the intention of establishing a prize in economics. He explained that, quote, Nobel despised people who cared more about profits than society's well-being, end quote, saying that, quote, there is nothing to indicate that he would have wanted such a prize, end quote, and that the association with the Nobel Prizes is, quote, a PR coup by economists to improve their reputation, end quote. For reference, Hayek and Friedman were also given this award. Hayek objected to its existence. And the less said about Milton Friedman, the better. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a very high view of Paul Krugman. Occasionally he does say something that makes some sense. But he usually always does so in a way that doesn't admit he was wrong before. For example, he did criticize neoliberalism a couple of years ago, I guess it was. I think it was maybe 2016. But he didn't say, I've changed my mind, or I was wrong, or anything like that. I was a mistake. Nothing of the sort. He just suddenly decided to say this and didn't acknowledge that he'd been promoting neoliberalism for the past however many decades. So, I mean, I don't think that's good form, basically. Anyway, the article then concludes, I believe this is the end of it, yes. President Donald Trump and the GOP lowered the top tax rate to 37% from 39.6% as part of their tax law enacted in 2017. And I'm going to say 39.6% was already too low. One of the reasons for taxation, according to modern monetary theory, is to make sure that no individual has such a vast amount of currency that they can have undue influence on our political offices. Now, we've certainly seen that go out the window. Ever since Reagan got in office, we've been moving more and more to this neoliberal economic model, and we're now at the point where we have this so-called revolving door between the private and corporate sectors. So you have lobbyists writing legislation and giving it to representatives and senators who then introduce it on the floor of whichever House of Congress they are in. You have CEOs and lobbyists who get appointed to cabinet positions. For example, Ajit Pai, whom I like to call Idjit Pai, was, I guess, a lawyer for Verizon before he became the chair of the FCC, and probably intends to go back to work in the same industry when he finally leaves the position he shouldn't be in. Let's see. We have had Goldman Sachs executives or former executives and lobbyists in positions related to financial regulation and all of that. It's just, they certainly have undue influence, and part of that has to do with the Citizens United versus the FEC ruling in the Supreme Court, which needs to be overturned. And there's no way it can be overturned except by a constitutional amendment. So hopefully that will be done. Alright, I've got a few more articles, and then I'm going to bring in some of my subscribers who might have some other news they'd like to call to my attention and the like. So anybody who's in the Discord, if you're interested in coming on live with me to talk about anything I've already talked about, or any other news which you may have that I haven't talked about recently, then hop into the Antichamber voice channel in the Discord server, and I will drag you in momentarily. Now, I do have, as I said, a few more articles, not many, because I did most of the articles I was going to talk about this week last night. So the next story is actually, I'm going to do 3 articles on this because they're all related. The first one comes from the website of the Green Party of the United States. Yet another win for election integrity. And this was published yesterday or the day before, I think. More great news. We just got a court decision in Wisconsin that we can proceed with a groundbreaking examination of voting machine software without a gag rule that voting machine corporations had sought. They had hoped to prevent us from making any public disclosure about what we discover. This is a critical victory for everyone concerned with the integrity of our elections, and we accomplished it together. Please help build the momentum for elections we can trust by sharing this great news on Facebook and Twitter. This decision is a huge win for voters everywhere and for the common sense principle that the accuracy and reliability of our voting system is more important than shielding corporations from scrutiny. The only reason for voting machine corporations to push for a gag rule was to prevent us from revealing any problems with their machines, which would threaten their ability to keep profiting off our elections. It's outrageous that we had to go to court to argue that the integrity of our elections is more important than protecting corporations. When we launched the 2016 recount with the support of over 161,000 people, we knew it wasn't just a single election people were worried about, but the whole system. Over and over, we heard the concern that the computers and technology that were supposed to make our elections modern and reliable had instead made them more vulnerable. So when the recount in Wisconsin made it possible to examine voting machine software, we jumped at the rare opportunity to look inside the voting machines to see if they deserve the immense trust we're told to put in them. Wisconsin law allows us to conduct a groundbreaking statewide examination of the voting machine source code, a crucial piece of voting machine software that controls the actual counting and tallying of the votes. This decision allows us to start preparing for the first ever independent post-election examination of voting machine source code. This is the latest in a series of victories for election integrity resulting from the 2016 recount effort, including our recent settlement with the state of Pennsylvania to replace easily hacked paperless voting machines with paper ballots and institute automatic vote audits. This precedent raises the bar for election integrity across the country and adds to previous victories in Michigan and Wisconsin after the recount identified voting machine failures leading to the replacement of faulty machines. We look forward to continuing the fight together for elections we can trust, that are accurate, secure, and just, and free from Jim Crow voter suppression. Thank you to everyone who has supported the work so far. We couldn't have won this huge victory without you. It's in our hands, Jill Stein. P.S. For more information, check out our website, and I'm going to be looking at that momentarily. That's the next article I want to bring up, in fact. Which brings together critical information and resources about the ongoing work of the recount effort, as well as the broader movement for election protection and voting justice. So that's all of that article. Before I go on to the next, I want to point out a lot of people have been claiming that Jill Stein pocketed the money that was donated for the recount effort in the 3 states where she was going to have that done. Obviously, that is not the case. If she had, the Federal Election Commission would have already hauled her into court and probably charged her with some extortion or some fraud or something like that. Yeah, I mean, by law, that money can only be used for election integrity efforts. And I'm sure they're watching her very closely. So this narrative, this false narrative, which the establishment Democrats and the corporate Democrats have been pushing, that Jill Stein has pocketed this money, not true. There is a full accounting on her website of where all the money has gone. And we are seeing results. And this is the latest one. So I'm going to look now. This is from the website votingjustice.us. It was published on the 10th of January. So, yeah, a couple of days ago. Court rules for Stein recount denying attempt to prevent public disclosure of voting machine inspection, posted by Robert Blackman on the 10th of January 2019. For immediate release Thursday, January 10, 2019, Stein recount 2016. Contact David Schwab, and it gives an address and a phone number. Today, former Green Party presidential nominee Jill Stein announced another win in her push for election integrity in the 2016 recount follow-up. She hailed a Wisconsin court ruling that denied a request by voting equipment corporations that would have barred any public disclosure of the findings of a groundbreaking examination of voting machine software that the Stein campaign will conduct. The voting machine corporations sought the gag rule in the wake of a Wisconsin Elections Commission decision allowing the Stein campaign to inspect the software and review its accuracy and reliability. And then there is a quote from the article I just read. That was Jill Stein's statement. I think it's actually quite a... Yeah. And then it says... The Wisconsin decision is the latest in a series of victories for election integrity resulting from the 2016 recount effort, including a recent settlement with the state of Pennsylvania to replace easily hacked paperless voting machines with paper ballots and institute automatic vote audits. This precedent raises the bar for election integrity across the country. It adds previous victories in Michigan and Wisconsin after the recount identified voting machine failures leading to the replacement of faulty machines. And it gives a link for where you can read the Wisconsin court decision for yourself. All right. So again, all of these articles will be posted in the video description before the stream is over. I have one more article in this story about the more recent result from the most recent, besides this one decision that was. And this is also from votingjustice.us, and it's PA, Pennsylvania, recount settlement, a victory for voters everywhere, posted by Robert Blackman on the 10th of January 2019. For immediate release, Wednesday, November the 28th, 2018. Stein recount 2016. Contact David Schwab, gives the address and phone number. Historic PA recount settlement is a victory for voters everywhere, according to Jill Stein. Today, this is back in November, Green Party 2016 presidential nominee Jill Stein announced the formal settlement of her 2016 lawsuit against the state of Pennsylvania. The lawsuit called for an end to the use of paperless voting machines known to be vulnerable to hacking, tampering, and error, and for the reform of unworkable recount procedures that prevent verification of the vote. The settlement guarantees that Pennsylvania will provide new voting systems using paper ballots by 2020, followed in 2022 by automatic robust audits after every election to confirm the accuracy of the vote before results are certified. Stein declared, quote, "This is a critical victory for everyone concerned with the integrity of our elections. We congratulate the state of Pennsylvania for raising the bar not only for Pennsylvanians, but for voters everywhere. By agreeing to end the use of paperless voting machines, Pennsylvania is not only safeguarding its citizens' rights to vote. By example, the agreement is also a big step towards the retirement of paperless voting machines that 1 in 4 voters across the nation are still required to use, despite their demonstrated vulnerability to hacking, tampering, and error. Automatic robust audits provide an essential safeguard by cross-checking paper ballots against machine totals using hand counts and the human eye to make sure every election is verified before the results are official. These 2 reforms are a first step to restoring confidence in our broken elections." And it goes on a little bit longer, and it also has a link where you can read the settlement agreement if you would care to do so. So, I mean, again, these claims that are being made by Democrats with a vested interest in smearing Green Party and Green Party candidates, they're all bullshit. Jill Stein did not pocket the money. The law requires that it can only be used for election integrity efforts, as she has stated repeatedly, and she has given a full accounting on her website of where all of the money has gone. So, we are seeing results, and all we're hearing from these same establishment Democrats and corporate Democrats is the same old tired, she pocketed all that money, she blah blah blah. No she didn't. No she didn't. Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. Alright, I have one more story that I'm going to go over before I bring in some of my subscribers. And we're going to be moving from politics to science. So yay. For all the science fans out there and scientists. I do have a few scientists who check out my channel. Some scientists who are subscribed to my channel. This comes from National Geographic, and it was published on, when? I don't know. Oh, the 9th. The 9th of January 2019 by Shannon Sterone, or Sterone. I don't know. And it has a photograph by Andre Renard and stuff. I mean, again, the link will be in the video description, so you can go and check out the pics and stuff. And this is from the Science and Innovation section of National Geographic. Swarm of mysterious radio bursts seen coming from deep space. The bevy of high-speed flashes came from 1.5 billion light-years away, and they include one exceedingly rare repeating burst. Astronomers have detected 13 high-speed bursts of radio waves coming from deep space, including one that regularly repeats. While the exact sources remain unknown, the new bevy of mysterious blasts does offer fresh clues to where and why such flashes appear across the cosmos. Fast radio bursts, as they are known to scientists, are among the universe's most bizarre phenomena. Each burst lasts just thousandths of a second, and they all appear to be coming from far outside our home galaxy, the Milky Way. Since these bursts were discovered in 2007, their cause has remained a puzzle. Based on estimations of the known range of their frequencies and an understanding of activity in the universe, scientists expect that nearly 1,000 of them happen every day, but to date, only a handful have been found. Now, a team using the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment, or CHIME, has announced the additional 13 new detections, including an especially rare repeating burst. Until now, only one other repeating fast radio burst was known to exist. The repeater, as it's being called, and its 12 counterparts, came from a region of space some 1.5 billion light-years away, the team reports today in the journal Nature. All 13 new bursts have the lowest radio frequency yet detected, but they were also brighter than previously seen fast radio bursts, leading the team to think the low frequency has something to do with the source's environment. Study author Sriharsh Tendulkar says, quote, "It doesn't mean that they're traveling from further away. As light propagates through the hot gas and plasma in the intergalactic medium and the interstellar medium, it has a bunch of different effects on the signal," end quote. Tendulkar is a postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Physics at McGill University. For instance, the radio waves get twisted as they travel through space and can scatter or be absorbed by gas and plasma. The team therefore thinks that all 13 bursts likely originated from dense, turbulent regions inside of their host galaxies, particularly areas with a lot of violent activity, such as near dense supernova remnants or close to black holes. Tendulkar and the team also noticed that the structure of the new repeating burst is strikingly similar to the only other repeater ever found. Tendulkar says, quote, "The fact that we see these multiple structures in the burst was very similar to the first repeating fast radio burst. This is very uncommon. Now there is this tantalizing evidence that these bursts structures are seen only in repeaters," end quote. That suggests that if more fast radio bursts are found with that structure, they may be prime candidates for also being repeaters. And so that's that. Let me go ahead and pull these people in who are waiting. Union Aerospace has been waiting for quite a while, and Jables Boogly.
Hello.
Hello. How are you guys?
Nothing much. What about you?
I just went over recent news that I didn't get to last night.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
Hey, Jables, you fell asleep on me last night as we were streaming.
Sorry about that.
Well, I shouldn't say fell asleep. I think you passed out. I don't know how much you had to drink, but you weren't. You were kind of funny.
Yeah.
Also, sorry if I sound with my mouth full. I'm eating some tangerines at the moment.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me mute the stream real
Delicious.
quick. Yeah.
So, what have you guys been up to besides of the articles?
I've been in meetings and more meetings, and gonna have more meetings still.
Well, not sure if you're gonna be reading us about the about the Bungie leaving Activision apparently.
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
No, you haven't seen that.
Well, I hope you're going to write an article about how shitty I might have been last night.
Nah, you were okay, but yeah, I think you confused me with someone else at one point. You should go back and listen to the last 30 minutes or so of the stream.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should. Did we talk about Louis C.K. last night?
I did not. No, I haven't really talked about him at all, except someone brought him up in the Discord, and I gave my opinion on the subject. What, did he do something else?
Yeah, he has. There's more controversy around because somebody leaked one of his working sets that he was trying to do.
Yeah, that was the one we were talking about.
Misconduct.
Apparently,
that's one of the things that accused him of.
Accused him of what now?
Sexual misconduct.
Yeah, that's supposedly he asked a couple of women if he could masturbate in front of them. So, I mean, and people are all outraged about this and calling it sexual assault.
No.
What?
That's not what I'm talking about. The latest thing with Louis C.K. is somebody recorded and leaked a whole set that he did.
Yeah.
A 45-minute set.
Yeah, that was part of it. That was the reason that the whole thing about the so-called sexual misconduct.
No, this just happened This just happened within the last couple of weeks.
Yes, I know. The reason that we're talking about the sexual misconduct or whatever is because of that, because that was brought up in conjunction with it to supposedly prove what a shit person he is or whatever. And we're all like, okay. I mean, people try out jokes and they don't always land, right? That was the whole point of this, the set that he was doing wasn't one of the normal, circuits that he would be on.
It wasn't a finished set.
Right.
He was trying some shit out. It was a workout set.
Yeah, and a couple of the jokes just didn't land, so, and people were outraged about them. I've now forgotten what they were, but I did actually listen to that portion of the set, which was supposed to be controversial, and I was like, okay, it was a bad joke, big deal.
I can send you the full set.
Okay. I'm not sure when I'll have time to watch it, but yeah.
It's a 45-minute thing. You just listen to it.
Okay. Yeah, drop it to me in the Discord or in a PM or something, and I'll see when I can get to it. But yeah, so that was all. I mean, I was like, what did I say about it? Is Ryan here? Are you going to come in with us, Ryan? Let me see. I see Ryan is out in the external chat, and so he often comes into the stream. I don't know if he's going to join us today, or I guess I should say this evening, because it's already after sundown here. Let's see. What did I say about it? Someone did ask me about the Louis C.K. business.
Oh, by the way, I was gonna talk about some news that I found really curious. So, apparently there was a woman who left Saudi Arabia and sought political asylum in Thailand.
Right.
For the shock of my heart, for the shock of my own heart, the Thai police allowed her in. And they said they won't deport the Saudi woman seeking asylum. Which I'm actually surprised, because the last time a woman tried to do that, she was deported back to Saudi Arabia.
Right. Yeah, I saw about that.
Okay. So the reason why they didn't deport her is because she wrote an official letter to the American government, the Canadian government, and the UK government to claim asylum.
Yeah.
And since Thailand is one of the allies, and the way the laws are set up with refugee statuses and whatnot, they have to keep her in Thailand.
Yeah. So that was cool, because her life was definitely in danger. She had converted from Islam, or converted away from Islam, whatever.
She left Islam.
Yeah. I don't know if she converted to anything or not, and I don't really care, but yeah, that was...
It's because her father is a governor in the high northern province of Saudi Arabia. So basically, her father is a bigwig.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how the father's going to be once he knows that his daughter turned away from the most holy of religions.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
so,
but she's gained immense support because she has a pretty decent social media following. Plus, all the news supporting her and everything like that. So,
yeah. So
I think she's going to be fine.
Let's hope so. Yeah. With reference to the Louis C.K. business, this is what I said before I had heard any of the set. I said, okay, first let me state that I haven't heard any of this audio or video or whatever. I have only seen a few comments made about it on the Twitter. Now, as to what I think about it, I don't care. I really fucking could not give a fuck less. It's just another example of people getting outraged over meaningless shit. It's a fucking joke. Let people laugh at it if they want to. In the grand scheme of things, it makes not a fuck's bit of difference. If I'm going to invest my emotion in something, it better be more important than some guy telling an off-color joke. You want to hear some really shocking humor? Go to YouTube and look up Andrew Dice Clay. He was relatively big when I was an undergraduate. I never found him amusing or entertaining, but a lot of people did. I think he was an ass clown. But I'm not going to piss myself over him either. I don't even know who this Louis C.K. guy is anyway. I've heard people talk about him, and I've seen a photo of him or something, but I don't know who he is, and I don't really care. And then, I said, I think there was some of that Me Too stuff connected with him, but I never cared enough to look into it. The way that I look at it is that if there be evidence and the guy gets taken to court and found guilty, then I will say, quote, okay, he's a piece of shit, end quote. But if it's just somebody pointing their finger and saying, j'accuse, I'm going to pay little heed, because, especially if it's somebody I've never even heard of before or don't know anything about. And then there's a bunch of other stuff talking about...
Wait, are you saying you never heard of Louis C.K.?
Oh, I've heard of him, yes, but I don't really know who he is. I've never followed him. Okay. You know, I'm not a fan.
He's one of the most successful comedians of our time. Right next to, Kevin Hart.
I don't know who that is either. Man, you want to talk about comedians, I'm going to talk about Stephen Wright and George Carlin and Lenny Bruce and people like that, right?
Stephen Wright's one of my favorites. Louis C.K., during his entire career, has been edgy, offensive comedy. And he is one of the most successful comedians at it. And now that he's back doing comedy after his whole quote-unquote Me Too movement situation, now, people are mad at him for doing edgy comedy and, making fun of the Parkland kids.
Oh, right. That was the joke. That was the one that, I thought that was a bad joke and stuff. Hello, Ryan. Welcome.
It was that joke and the Asians don't have dicks.
What the fuck? Anyway,
But the joke against the Parkland shooters was the big one that got him all the attention.
Yeah,
against the Parkland shooters. I thought it was against the people that got murdered. Okay.
Someone had mentioned that the joke was about Parkland victims or whatever in this discussion, and then said something about you wouldn't make jokes about Holocaust victims, blah 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 blah. And I said, so I've heard quite a lot of jokes about Holocaust victims. You know, I'm in my 50s, right? I've heard all kinds of wild shit, and maybe that some of that stuff isn't done nowadays, at least not on a stage. But humor is subjective, and I would oppose any attempt to legislate against so-called dark and edgy humor. Maybe look up Lenny Bruce. There's an example of a comedian being held to the standards of decency which prevailed at his time, and which we now look back at and say, oh my gods, how could they possibly have censored this dude? Yeah. And it was all the more ironic.
Bruce got fucked over because he was going against the Catholic Church, right?
He was using the F word, basically. And it was all the more ironic because the very police who were supposedly enforcing this bullshit were using the exact same language he was. In fact, I think his second arrest was him just telling the story of what had happened the first time and quoting the police who had arrested him. But oh my god, he said the F word, we take him downtown now, and the cops who took him downtown that time were using the exact same language that they were arresting him for. Anytime you find somebody who proclaims themselves a guardian of decency, look around a little bit, because you're probably going to find some kind of skeletons in their closet or a body buried in the backyard or something, because almost all of them are fucking hypocrites. As for somebody asking if he could masturbate in front of a woman, I've had that happen to me too. It was very strange, but I didn't feel threatened by it. I just laughed at the guy, which probably made him feel about an inch tall. We were in my car at the time, and so he's like, I want to show you something. And I said, okay. And he says, I can't show you now. So I pulled into a parking lot, and I said, okay, show me now. And he's very sheepish, and he says, I want, and I said, show me. You know, I kind of yelled at him, and he goes, I want you to watch me masturbate. And my mouth is open, and I'm staring at him, and I go, what? He goes, I want you to watch me jack off. And I go, oh my god, and I started laughing, and then I said no, and I pulled out of the parking lot. So, I mean, what the fuck? You know?
You went from talking about free speech to talking about jerking off in front of ladies.
Yeah, but I mean, these were both things that were being brought up in connection with this. And then after I actually did hear part of the routine, after I did actually hear part of the routine, I came back and I said, so I have now seen and heard at least the part of the routine which has people up in arms, or about which people are up in arms, or however you want to say that. I saw it as part of this video by Tim Black, and having watched it and listened to the routine, or at least that particular portion, as well as Tim Black's take on it, and the several comments which are currently present in comment section on the video, I'm going to say that I agree with Tim Black, and as someone in the comments pointed out, we used to joke about dead babies. Some of you younger folk may never have heard dead baby jokes. They were gross and disgusting, and some of them were fucking funny as fuck. And in case there are any religious reactionaries lurking in here, no, this was not about abortion, and these jokes predated anybody getting their panties into a bunch over abortion, except maybe the Catholics. Seriously, this was before the moral majority horse shit, and continued beyond that.
Hold on. Yeah, we go back to the classic joke. What's the difference between a Ferrari and a pile of dead babies?
What?
I don't have a Ferrari in my garage.
Oh, God.
Oh.
There was one something about what's white and red all over, and the answer was a dead baby in a blender. That's the one I remember. And then there was the reason I remembered is because there were similarly dead frog jokes being told around the same time. This was back in the early 80s. And someone had the same joke, basically. It was, what's red and green all over? And the answer was a dead frog in a blender. You know? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if a joke is told properly, like, I mean, Louis C.K. has an excellent bit on the word faggot. How he doesn't use it against people that are gay, but he uses it against people that act like faggots, like a person that corrects you on everything.
Okay, like, I don't know.
Like somebody could be sucking a dick deep.
Oh, okay.
Dick and everything like that, and they could pull that dick out of their mouth and just look to him and say, "Hey, you know, people from Phoenix are called Phoenicians."
Okay.
And then he, shut the fuck up, faggot. Keep sucking that dick.
Okay. Well, that's weird.
You know, that's a soup spoon, not a. I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
He also had a great bit on the N-word about how people on the news will say they said the N-word. Well, now you made me just say it because now I'm thinking about it. I'm not gonna say it on stream because this is gonna be that's a word that will get you monetized.
Yeah, I think maybe maybe the other word you said would do as well. So let's.
No. The other one's fine. Trust me.
Okay.
Say, anyone heard about the family that walked into a talent agency?
A talent agency?
You know, like it's like a pregnant mother and a father with their son and daughter, and they say that they want to do. They told the guy that they have this act that's so amazing that he's never seen before.
Oh, are you talking? I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, like you heard about that joke, right?
Yeah, the aristocrats.
Yeah, they made an entire movie about it.
Oh,
yeah. That's don't tell that joke live on YouTube.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose my channel.
Yeah, if I'm telling you not to tell it live, that's a big fucking thing. I know exactly which joke you're talking about.
Yeah, because Jables is very.
Which version are you talking about there? Are you talking about the?
Maybe you want to type this in the text channel in the Discord.
I'd say.
It's a long joke. It's really gory. It's really bloody. It's really shitty.
It's supposed to be It's supposed to be tried to be as offensive as possible, basically.
Yeah, it's a comedian's joke.
Yeah,
which is why it should not be said live.
Even my corn itself is horrified by that.
So, okay, moving on. What else has been going on in your lives, or any other news you want to bring up?
Well,
actually, you know, yesterday I found this is kind of like a. Actually, I got into like some kind of drama because, well, maybe I should. Basically, like, with a group of me and a group of people and this other YouTube, like, there. Let me bring up the video, like, to get some. Like, is anyone familiar with a YouTuber named Nick and Kyla?
What? Who?
Oh, like, basically, like, I kind of got involved in a drama because, like, because in a video, like, someone actually leaked
type it out, please.
What?
One second, how about I just maybe link the video in the answer chamber?
YouTube drama. It never changes.
Yeah.
At this point, it never changes. Like war. It never changes.
War never changes. I don't want to set the world on fire.
With Fallout 76, maybe war did change, you know? Maybe. For better or for worse.
Okay, I'm just going to get some context. It actually started with... Actually, a friend of mine named the Dark Conservatorian actually made this... actually, like, did a response video because of... To start with this, like, let me...
Where did you...
See, like...
Okay.
Yes, yes, and... Of course, like, a while ago, like... Okay, well, see, like... and the see, like I'm actually associated with a group called the Poor Bastard Podcast, and we have like a Twitter chat, a DM chat group, and we were talking about it, and actually someone then took screenshots of us talking about it, then like gave it to this person, Rin Mikhailis, and she did a response video using those screenshots, taking us all contacts. I can show you that video right now. Like,
Did you say you do a podcast?
actually, no. I'm actually associated, and someone going stream with this group called the Carbastic Podcast, run by a guy who calls himself S-Man.
That's fine.
Like, basically, like they. Like, I put on the 2 videos to show like the situation, and basically I'm saying, like, see, basically what happened is, like, there started with a drama between this user named Rin Mikhailis and the Common Sense guy that, well, basically was an argument that ended up with her flagging Common Sense guy, and he got it on Twitter and got a 12-hour suspension, and it was actually, and of course, like, she was actually one of those people who are, like, completely gung-ho about free speech, to the point that you can almost say that she's an absolutist. In fact, that she even defends someone like Ralph, which, look, I gotta say, like, if you, like, look, I understand the fact that if you are trying to advocate for free speech absolution, then you're bound to defend, like, people who are otherwise indefensible. Which, and also, like, another thing is, like, also another thing we were talking about, and I kind of find that if you claim you're for free speech to the point you defend, like, a shitbag like Ralph, but then you kind of then just flag someone over an argument and say you're just trying to probably troll them without reason.
Hold on. Hold on. I'm a free speech absolutist, with the exception of calls to violence.
What about slander and libel? Okay.
I just said that.
I'm just saying, like, see, like, usually the line is actually to cause real life violence, real life harm, but this is just simply like a very heated argument between Rin and Common Sense guy, and how
are you a free speech absolutist?
Well, I'm saying, like, only to the point where if it caused, like, the line I draw, if it actually caused direct and real harm. Yeah, that's.
How do you define that? How do you define that line?
Like, see, like, if it actually, like, if it directly causes, like, harm, like someone being violently attacked or possibly.
No, but how do you define that line? Because, like, I mean, I don't know. A conservative speaker goes to speak at a college in California. Riots occur while they were speaking. And that directly caused harm.
Well, but there is the Supreme Court ruling in that case of, what was it, Brandenburg versus Ohio, any speech which is intended and likely to result in imminent lawless action. So it has to be intended, not.
Liv, I'm aware. I'm pushing buttons here.
I'm just trying. I'm actually. Let's get back to the point. Like, see, like, we can all agree that, like, let's just say, like, we can all agree that Ralph is a piece of shit. But if someone's going to claim, if someone's trying to advocate for free speech absolutism, they're bound to defend piece of shit. However, like, the question, like, see, I kind of, like, what I bring up in our, like, DM group is, in the DM group I'm in, like, is that if you're, like, if you're going to like, if you claim to be a free speech absolutist, but then to the point to defend someone like Ralph, but then like go around and flag someone just over an argument, kind of shows that you're not free speech absolutist. And optic-wise, it kind of looks like that you're actually promoting the Ralph's shitty ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just want trying to say.
Yeah.
And also,
like I said earlier, I'm nearly an absolutist, but you know, calls to violence. That's where
I know.
That's where I draw my line.
But I'm just saying, like, see, like this is. I'm just saying, like, see, like, regardless, like where the line draws, like, see, like, I'm saying what happened between Rin and Common Sense Guy was just like a very heated argument, and usually, mostly, the normal person would just simply after a while just simply ignore the person or either block them. But going in that case, but in this case, she actually literally flagged someone, and the reason she gave was she was trying to find a clever way to troll him. And of course, like, not only that, also, like, actually pointed out, like, see, like, Rin, like, see, like, there was actually because she actually condemned other people for doing the exact same thing she did, like, as well, like, because see, like, over a year ago, there was a drama between, like, Sargon and Curiosity, which ended up with Sargon flagging Curiosity.
There's always drama involving Carl. I mean, it's like constant.
But I know, like, see, like, see, I'm gonna tell you, like, Rin was actually one of the few people who actually condemned Sargon for that. And now she did the exact same thing for
hold on. You got to be really wary of internet drama.
I know, but I'm just
because I am currently starting some internet drama where I am selling Billy the Fridge's phone number for $500,000.
Yeah, like
Billy the Fridge is totally aware of this. I asked him before I did it, but I'm starting some internet drama, and I got plenty of views off of the internet drama.
Oh my goodness!
Hey, you're patronizing the drama. Good for you.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not actually gonna sell it, but who's gonna pay me $500,000 for Billy the Fridge's phone number? Plus, I already talked to Billy, and I said he could get a quarter of it. So,
what if someone does pay you that amount?
If somebody does, then Billy gets a quarter of it.
Okay, so you will if they actually come up with that money.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
but nobody's gonna fucking do it.
I don't know. Crazy people do crazy things.
Mm-hmm. But the thing
is, but somebody with $500,000 is not going to be that desperate for Billy's phone number.
Yeah,
they'll just buy a VIP ticket to one of his rap shows.
I was gonna say to you that on this debate of the whole thing, if someone's free speech absolutist or not, we can all agree that the line we can draw on that is on open calls of violence in that regard.
Yeah.
We can absolutely call it. And as you said, even is a piece of shit. But he has the right for his free speech. But I have the right to call him out for his bullshit and say he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes, you do.
And
the problem comes when you start saying, "Hey, my idea is better than his. Beat the shit out of that guy."
Yeah.
That's where the problem comes.
Which is exactly justified by one logical fallacy that is being spread around by the circles of the hipsterites. Let's call it that way. The Karl Popper fallacy. Not sure if you know about this.
Yeah.
Unfamiliar.
The tolerance, how you call it? Tolerance loop?
It's the fallacy of tolerance. Supposedly, you can't be tolerant of the intolerant.
In one of the pages of humor I visited in Spain, they've been spamming the shit out of that little comic that was exposing the ideas of Karl Popper and how come Nazis shouldn't be tolerated. And when since I love to read about World War II, I got to say about this. The rise of the Nazis was not because they were banned. It was not because they were, how you call it? They were left to spread their hate speech and hypnotize the entire German population. You know what I mean?
No.
It was because the communists started to beat the shit out of them. Mm-hmm. It was because the government started to crack down on the Nazis. It was because the left-wing militia killed Horst Wessel.
This is what I've tried to point out to some of the people I know who advocate for the Antifa and Black Bloc and BAMN groups, and I'm like, you guys don't really understand how this got started in Germany. It was because people like you went around and gave those people evidence for their victim narrative. They got to play martyr, and the people started sympathizing with them. The only thing you're doing is making the situation worse, you dumbasses.
Yeah. Well, the bigger problem is that people that are involved in all those groups, they have no foresight.
Mm-hmm. And
they have no foresight or hindsight, I should say, because what creates our foresight is looking at hindsight,
right,
and seeing how things occurred and what happened and everything like that. So.
Yeah, and so many of them don't actually study history because they regard it as suspect because, according to them, it's the product of white male cisgender heterosexuals. And I'm like, no, there have been quite a lot of historians who weren't white. There have been quite a lot of women who were historians. And they do the same thing with science. They do the same thing with philosophy. And I'm like, have you never heard of Hypatia?
Okay. There's always that old adage, history is written by the winners. So you do have to put that into a little bit of the perspective.
Yeah, anyhow, but back to the point, but basically you get what I'm saying is you can say you're for free speech, but if you actually go out and blatantly censor someone, that actually brings up questions of whether or not you actually have some kind of bias favoring the people you defend. See, that's what I'm saying. And of course, now if you go to Rin, she made a response to all this, and someone actually we were in the third M group, we were talking about it, and someone actually made screenshots and leaked it to her, and she took us all out of context.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to compare us to the Wall Street Journal, trying to smear Ralph as a Nazi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's profile that.
Here, I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
Does it count as censorship if I tell somebody that is propagating the myth that Donald Trump has a child sex ring that he's running, if I tell them to shut the fuck up, they have no evidence for that. Is that censorship?
Technically, no, because you're not really doing anything that would really actually stop the guy from saying anything like that. But so technically,
it was a girl.
Oh,
Does
girl!
that make a difference?
See, I'm just saying, just saying someone, just saying if that's that alone, that technically is not censorship. If you actually try to, I don't know, find some way to very practically
that's if I put that out on a live stream, that'd be kind of a slander.
Somewhat, I think, probably.
But
in the end, though, can we just agree that that arguments in the internet are fucking exceptional.
Yeah, but
I'm just curious where your stances are with free speech and everything.
I mean,
you would have to have some kind of authority to make them shut up or deplatform them or the like. A lot of people want to conflate freedom of speech with free speech, and they're actually two different things. Freedom of speech is the constitutionally recognized right that you have freedom of speech and the government cannot censor you. But free speech is a broader principle. It's an Enlightenment principle. And it includes freedom of speech, but also includes more. I mean, you can censor someone and not be part of the government. Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Google and MySpace, they do it. They engage in censorship. You don't have to be part of the government.
I totally agree with you, Liv. There's a difference between free speech legally and free speech just as a principle, as a person.
Yeah, like... Anyhow, like, if you wanted to get, like, some more context, I posted, like, a video from my friend talking about, like, the situation I was talking about, and also, like, that person's, like, response video to it. It's on the text for voice channel, like, text channel for voice. And yes, and of course, like, also they see, like, the circle of people, the poor bastards, are planning to do a stream responding to Rin's video about us, and I might, and if I have time, I might actually take part in that stream as well. Yeah, like... Actually, you know what? Thankfully, she didn't actually reveal she blocked out the names when she showed the screenshots. But I'm going to confess, like, some of those, like, Twitter DM screenshots. Well, some of them were actually directly from me, like, because I was trying to, like, basically I was trying to say that optic-wise, it does kind of look like she is directly endorsing Ralph, like, because if her standard isn't, like, for free speech, then what reason would anyone defend, like, this anti-Semitic convicted felon like Ralph? Like, really, that's really the only real reason to actually you know, like, that's the only. That's actually the one and only thing that really is that you can justify defending, like, someone that irreprehensible is as a free speech standard, like.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, anything else? You guys have any other news in your part of the world or something you've seen that I haven't taken note of in the news?
In my part of the world, I think we're nothing much over here, and I'd like to think that this stupid has died down a bit over here. But everyone's still fucking reading about the whole disaster of Andalusia. Not sure if you heard about it.
Maybe. Refresh my memory.
So, Andalusia was ruled by the Socialist Party for, like, more than 24 years or something like that. So, like, Andalusia is basically one of the biggest bases of support for the Socialist Party, right? During all that time, the Socialist Party has treated Andalusia like it were their own fucking strip club. We're talking about things like corruption galore, unjustified people being unjustifiedly thrown out of their jobs. Because apparently the big wig of the Socialist Party demanded it back in Andalusia. And now, the Popular Party plus plus a center party called Ciudadanos, plus a very right-wing party called Vox managed to band together and kick the Socialist Party out of Andalusia. So what you guys have, the whole thing about the left wing crying about Donald Trump winning the election, we're having it over here with the case of Andalusia.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. What was it possible? We lost Andalusia. They're like, yeah, maybe if you guys had to fucking fix the problems of Andalusia instead of exacerbating them, maybe you wouldn't be in this mess to begin with. But no, you had to be woke and go broke as a result of it.
Yeah. That reminds me, Liv, how do you feel about Tulsi Gabbard?
I talked about Tulsi announcing last night in my show last night, and I mean,
She announced already?
Yeah, she announced she is running for president.
Oh, fuck yes.
So, I mean, I like Tulsi. Out of the people who have declared their candidacy so far, she is the one I would most likely vote for in the Democratic primary. We have open primaries here, so I don't have to be registered as a Democrat to vote in their primary.
Yeah, my state allows me to remain independent and vote for whoever I want to. So
can I ask a thing to you guys? Do you lovely people living in the United States? Who is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. No.
Name's been popping on my feed all the time, and I'm like, who the fuck is this one?
She's the left
Donald Trump.
She is a recently elected representative from one of the congressional districts of New York to the U.S. House of Representatives. She is allegedly a Democratic Socialist, although the way that term is used in the United States is pretty often they mean Social Democrat, so it's a little difficult to tell. She does know at least a little bit about modern monetary theory, and she has busted the chops of a few people who have demanded, how are you going to pay for that, when they never ask, how are you going to pay for that when the topic is a new warplane or a new warship or a new war? You know, that question never comes up when those things are brought up. No one ever asks how you're going to pay for it.
She's really good about what she wants. She's really terrible about how she's going to get it.
No, I mean, this deficit spending is certainly the way. You have, we have in the United States a federal government which is the issuer of a sovereign, free-floating, non-convertible fiat currency. It cannot default in its own currency. It cannot become insolvent in its own currency. It does not need to tax or borrow in order to fund spending, and as long as we have sufficient resources to back up the spending can go on. Deficits are something that Ronald Reagan first started fear-mongering over, and the deficit is not really a concern. The debt is pro forma. It can't be called. It can't be force redeemed.
Hold on. She proposed a flat tax where everybody is taxed 70%.
No, she did not. That was one of the things I talked about earlier. She's talking about taxing people who make over $10 million a year and only taxing that amount over $10 million at 70%. So if you make $10 million flat on the nose, you're fine. You still get the lower tax rate. If you make $10,001, then that $1 and only that $1 gets taxed at 70%. Right.
Okay, so you lose 70 cents.
Right, and so I mean, like if you made $10,500,000, then only that 500 would be taxed at 70%. That's what the thing is, and people are not telling the whole story about that. They're trying to make out like she's going for a 70. And frankly, we had a over 70% tax rate until Ronald Reagan became president. The first time it dropped below, to I think it was 70 point something at the time, was 1964. Throughout the 1950s. The tax rate was 90% on the highest income earners. So, I mean, the 1950s are often called the decade of prosperity. Obviously, it didn't hurt our economy. So that bullshit about job creators and you can't tax the wealthy because they give us jobs. No, they don't. Fuck off with that. Wealth does not trickle up. Wealth does not trickle down. It trickles up. As Will Rogers pointed out, if you at least give the poor guy something in the morning, it'll be in the hands of the rich guy by the evening, but it will at least have passed through the poor guy's hands.
Yeah.
Another thing that's been happening a lot over here is that we're reading a lot of news about the situation going on in France.
Oh, the yellow vests?
Yeah. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, few things. She's young. She'll be eligible for presidency in 2020. I don't want her there because the gaffes that she has made are...
She's only 29. She has to be 35 to run for president, according to the Constitution.
Yes, but she's...
So it would be 2024 before she would be eligible to run.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, 2024.
I mean, what I said about her...
A lot of people think that she's hoping for Trump to be reelected so that she can run in 2024. Pretty much.
You were gonna say something?
Actually,
I lost.
Well, as I was saying, I'm telling you, apparently the whole thing of the yellow jackets in France, holy shit, it's spreading.
Yeah, it is. It is, absolutely.
Sightings of yellow jackets in Italy, in Belgium, in Holland,
and the United States.
Kingdom.
The United States as well.
Really?
Yeah. The thing about the yellow vests in France, though, is that there's nothing that they have in common. I mean, if you look at the graffiti that they've been leaving behind, you can see nationalist graffiti, you can see socialist graffiti, you can see full-blown Marxist graffiti, you can see anarchist graffiti, you can see anti-EU graffiti. The only thing that they do have in common is fuck Macron. That's it.
The right and left are combining together in France.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. I don't like Macron either. He's a neoliberal piece of garbage. As far as Ocasio,
if France is good at anything, instead of they aren't good at fighting wars or anything, but they're really good at revolutions.
Yeah, they are.
In the defense of the French, they did win several Napoleonic and Revolutionary wars.
But that was a long time ago.
And that was under a very good general.
Yeah,
and they did stop the 1914 German offensive. So.
That's true.
Yeah, for a brief period of time, and then the Germans marched into Paris again.
Not into the First World War.
So here,
don't forget the Lusitania. Hashtag don't forget Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. But let me, as far as what you were talking about, the history is written by the victors. There is a very interesting video that I linked somewhere recently in the Discord about Howard Zinn talking about what he called the 3 holy wars of the United States. And what he meant by that was these are the 3 wars that you are not supposed to criticize, and if you do, you get shit for it. And that was the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and World War II. And it's been made out like these were good wars and stuff, and they may have had just causes, and they may not have, but the fact is there were things done that weren't really appropriate. And as far as Ocasio, I did want to make a statement about something I said back in September. So it was about the time that she had endorsed Cuomo for governor of New York. And I said, Howie Hawkins, who was the Green Party candidate for governor, supports more of what she claims to support. Cuomo supports Cuomo. What did she say exactly? Quote, and what I also look forward to moving forward is us rallying behind all Democratic nominees, including the governor, to make sure that he wins in November, end quote. She could have said nothing about the governor's race. She could have endorsed Howie. Some have said the Democrats would have gone all out against her had she endorsed Howie. She could have done so and then said, bring it. That's what I would have said. Instead, she said what she did. What she said wasn't about policies, but about a person. Nico House did a video about this in which he said that she miscommunicated. And this actually was a comment I sent to him originally. And I said, I say she didn't give her answer proper consideration before giving it. Yes, she's been an activist. She's not a seasoned politician. Sure, but it was at the very least a rather serious faux pas, which ought to give voters pause because it shows that she is maybe not ready to hold the office for which she is running. Now, that having been said, let's look at this rationally. What are the options for voters in New York's 14th congressional district come November? And these are them. Anthony Pappas, Republican Party candidate. Joseph Crowley, Working Families Party candidate, who is apparently not endorsed by the Working Families Party and has stated that he isn't campaigning for the general election. Elizabeth Perry, Conservative Party candidate. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democratic Party candidate. There was a Reform Party candidate, Jim Dillon, who was going to be running there, but he changed his mind and decided he would be running in the 7th District instead. It is a safe bet. Wait. Let me finish. It's not that long. It's a safe bet that Anthony Pappas holds few, if any, progressive values, and the same is true of Elizabeth Perry. If you have doubts, you can look up the Conservative Party of New York and see what they stand for. It ain't pretty. We know Joe Crowley is an establishment Democrat, and the Democratic Party establishment has been anti-progressive since at least 1940, when they tried to prevent FDR from choosing Henry Wallace as his vice presidential running mate. FDR then threatened not to run for re-election unless he got Wallace, so they relented. But in 1944, FDR, weakened from illness, didn't fight them when they insisted on replacing Wallace with Harry Truman. The Democratic Party establishment has been increasingly anti-progressive since 1968, even going so far as to revise their charter and bylaws in 1973 to prevent any grassroots reform or takeover of the party, and to prevent progressives from nominating another candidate, which they had just done by winning the Democratic nomination for George McGovern through grassroots activism in 1972. And they haven't nominated another progressive since. And then they voted the superdelegate system into place in 1982 and implemented it in 1984. I hope I don't have to remind anyone of what they did in 2016, 2017, 2018. Wait.
Hey. No, you said it wasn't going to be that long.
It isn't that long. I'm almost done.
Now you're starting to get into history. We're going off into the weeds.
I'm done with the history, and I hope I don't have to remind anyone here of what they did in 2016, 2017, and 2018. It's a safe bet that Joe isn't too keen on progressive values either. There's no Green Party candidate running for the office. Alexandria has advocated for progressive and leftist policies. She campaigned on them. She's young, under 30, 28 to be precise, but will be 29 by the time of the general election in November. That youth, and here's what I want to say about, this is what I wanted to read this for. That youth comes with both pros and cons. She's got the passion and vigor of youth, but she also has the inexperience of youth. That inexperience can be credited with her not giving her answer due consideration before giving it, to which you referred in the video here and some of your comments in response to others here earlier. Public service requires more than passion and vigor. It also requires prudence, diligence, consideration. So yes, her inexperience is a detriment, but when a responsibility is given to someone, they can either botch it through inexperience or they can grow into it, and sometimes grow rather quickly. Her passion can help motivate her to grow into the role quickly, but she'll have to learn to temper her passion with diligence, consideration, reason, discernment, and selecting good advisors, out of which prudence may sprout and grow. She is the only real option the people of New York's 14th congressional district have, other than abstention, which would be an abdication of their responsibility and which wouldn't help. She's not perfect, but she's no Machiavellian like Hillary Clinton. She stands for something besides her own ego and her own ambition. You can see it in her, that passion. She wants to make a difference, not just for herself, but for the people of her district, for the people of her city, of her state, of her nation and the people of the world. That zeal can be dangerous. It can burn. But life would be very cold without that fire, too. New York can be a very cold place already. I think they could use some fire. I think the people of the 14th Congressional District of New York could do a lot worse than Alexandria, and I don't see any better option. I think they should vote for her, and I think she needs to select some very good advisors when she wins in November. That's it.
Yeah, real short. Okay.
It was. I think for me that was positively laconic.
Few things. One, she claimed that the unemployment rate was down because people were working 2 jobs. False. She's done a lot of claims about a lot of the finances in our country that are absolutely false and unreconcilable.
Well, what she was saying when she was talking about the 2 jobs is that the unemployment rate is not down because people have 2 jobs. The unemployment rate is down, but it is down in a way that means people are working 2 jobs. That is, most people...
No. No. She said...
I know what she said. I know what she said. I'm saying that...
The unemployment rate is down because people are working 2 jobs.
I know what she said, and I'm saying that this was a case of misspeaking. What she meant was...
Maybe it was. She hasn't corrected the statement. Don't clarify it for her. She has
the fact of the matter. The fact matter.
So she had no. Hold on. Let me finish. She has not corrected that statement. Do not interpret it for her because you are a fan of her. Do not interpret it for her. She made the statement. She has not corrected it, which means she is still standing behind that statement if she has not corrected it.
The fact of the matter, Jables, is that the unemployment rate is down, yes. But the people who have been employed are getting jobs where they're working 20 to 30 hours a week max. And therefore they have to work 2 jobs in order to make ends meet. Some of them are working 3 jobs. And with the current minimum wage being what it is across the nation, I mean, if minimum wage had kept pace with the cost of living increase since 1981, we would now be looking at a minimum wage of $22 in most states and $25 or more in some states, especially out on the West Coast and in New York and a few other places maybe. But so this push for a $15 minimum wage, that's still not getting it to where it needs to be.
Yeah. But what I was saying was that she said that unemployment is down because people are working multiple jobs. That's not the reason why. I know. The real reason why unemployment is down is a lot darker than that. It's because people have been unemployed for so long that they fall off of the shelf and they can no longer claim unemployment.
Yeah, that's another thing.
That's a real reason why unemployment is down.
There is a certain point at which people are no longer qualified for unemployment insurance and they're not looking for a job, and so they don't count as unemployed because of the way the government measures this.
You're essentially praising AOC, but she's just a less Donald Trump.
No, I'm saying she has flaws. I'm saying she's inexperienced, she's young, she doesn't know everything that she's trying to talk about, but she has passion, and so there are pros and cons to her.
And I appreciate that. I hope she learns.
I do too.
I hope she learns how to deal. I hope she learns a lot more. The $140,000 a year salary should help her have some free time to actually look into a lot more things.
Well, you'd think, but do you know how much time the legislators actually get to spend? There's a lot of shit that gets pushed their way. They have to do a lot of fundraising. They spend more time in fundraising than they do considering legislation, and that's something She doesn't
seem like the type to do to do like public fundraising.
Oh no, they send them across the street.
She seems more like an internet type.
Wait, they send them across the street to an office that is essentially a sweatshop where they get on the telephone and they call people. That's part of their job as Democrats, and that's their own fault. It's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans too. It's their own fault. They could stop that. They could amend the Constitution to overturn the Citizens United versus the FEC decision by the Supreme Court. That's one thing they could do. They could also amend. Yeah. They could also
just pull a Trump and start doing your public interaction on Twitter.
No, they could also do this. Wait, they could also do this. They could also pass a law that requires the networks to donate a certain time after every nightly news program, like 30 minutes or so, to the candidates who are viable in that particular region or whatever. And by viable, I mean, like in the case of presidential race, it would be those who are on the ballot in enough states to actually win if they got the electoral votes from those states. So, like, that would include the Green Party and the Libertarians, as well as the Republicans and the Democrats, but it wouldn't include someone like, say, Socialist Alternative or the Constitutional Party or the Reform Party or any of these other parties that aren't, that they don't really have a chance. That's the point I'm making. So if they required the networks to donate 30 minutes of airtime in a revolving schedule so that everybody got their message out to the people, instead of charging them $1 billion or whatever for ads throughout, it's not a billion, but whatever, it's quite a lot of money, and then allowed the networks to write that off as a public service, see, there's a win for everybody, because we get to hear a wider range of perspectives and proposals and platforms. The candidates get to get their message out without having to raise all this goddamn money so that they can buy ads, and the networks get to write it off as a tax, it's a tax write-off for them as a public service. These are things that they could do themselves, the people in the House of Representatives and the House of the Senate. They could do this.
Well, do you really want to go deep into what I want for reform?
Yeah, sure.
Uh-oh.
Yes. So, all right. I want to reform the Electoral College. The Electoral College is important for reasons that I can get into later if you want to ask questions. I want a fixed amount for how much money each candidate can spend on their campaigns. I want to elevate third and fourth parties, like outside parties. I'm tired of this two-party system. It's a bunch of bullshit. Oh, what else? I think that's basically it.
Now, okay, so I don't hear a lot there that I would disagree with. I would be curious about how you would want to reform the Electoral College. I know there are a lot of people, and this narrative started after Hillary lost in 2016, that the Electoral College is a vestige of racism. No, it's not. They're trying to say that 3/5 of a person is something that the South wanted to count blacks as only 3/5 of a person. That's not what it was about. That was their compromise with the North. The North didn't want to count the slaves at all, and so the
Electoral College was put in place so that we weren't entirely controlled by the coast.
Well, the Electoral College was put. There were no two coasts at the time. The Electoral College was put in place so that smaller population states would not be completely ignored by presidential candidates. And, every region has its own needs and concerns, though. So, like, we can talk about the country today, since people are concerned with today instead of the 13 original states. I mean, the Everglades in Florida are not the same as the swamps in Louisiana. They're not the same as the coastal plains in Texas. All of that is swampland, but they all have their own needs and concerns. And then take those and compare them to the Appalachians, compare those to the Ozarks, to the Ouachitas, to the Rockies, to the Cascades.
Live. We could even do a very simple thing. Like, I grew up in Eastern Washington. I now live in Western Washington.
Right.
The needs in Eastern Washington are vastly different than the needs in Western Washington.
Right.
And that's within the same state.
And I'm saying this is not only true because of the ecology, it's also true because of the economic situation in each place, right? So, and you know that as well. Certainly there are areas which are very rural and agrarian, and then there are places which are urbanized and industrial. So, I mean, you can't just give the presidential election to the 5 or 6 most populated cities in the United States, because are they going to give two shits what happens to the people that are raising the food that they eat? No. They don't care. They're yuppies. They don't give a shit about anything except what they can see affecting them immediately. Something down the road they're not going to consider.
However, do you have any proposal for electoral college reform? Because I think the electoral college is screwed.
I'm not really sure what I would do with it, but I do think it needs to remain, and not only because of the differences between regions.
It needs to remain. I'm not gonna deny that.
Not only because of the differences between regions in terms of ecology and economics, but also because the reason that James Madison gave in Federalist Number 10, that is, pure democracy too often descends into dictatorship, and it does this through factions which follow after popular fads. Like, I can remember in the early 1990s when we were being encouraged to eat a certain type of vegetable oil spread instead of butter because it was supposedly so much healthier. And now we find out, several years later, that all that trans fat is worse than saturated fat, and butter is healthier for you than that shit was. So, I mean, what is popular fad today might be disproven by science in a year or 5 or 10 years, and we might find out. You know,
you're going off into the reeds here.
But the point is that pure democracy often descends into dictatorship, and pure republic often descends into imperialism or empire. So what the founders did was they gave us something which hadn't existed before, a mixture of those two systems with a federal system in place. So we don't have a pure democracy, we don't have a pure republic, we don't have anything else. We have a democratic federal republic, something which had never existed before. And so that was an important thing. Madison was very clear about it, and what he was talking about with the factions and their following after popular fads and so forth was later described wait.
No, I don't need a history lesson.
Was later described by Alexis de Tocqueville in a term that has become rather famous, the dictatorship of the majority.
Okay, I didn't ask for a history lesson, I asked a question.
It's not really about history, it's about political philosophy. The thing is, this is one of the reasons that the Electoral College is important, because it is an attempt to avoid the dictatorship of the majority.
No. I asked, what would you change about the Electoral College?
How would you reform it? And I told you, I don't really have a clear picture of how it should be reformed.
Okay. And then you went off and tried to give me a history lesson. I didn't ask for a history lesson. I'm trying to tell you how I might like to reform the Electoral College.
Okay.
I was trying to get in there, but you went off into this whole
history Jables, lesson. It's not a history lesson. It's a discussion of the reasons for the fucking Electoral College in the first place, to dispel these claims about racism.
I think most of us understand that.
Most of us do.
Said anything that the Electoral College was racist. You're the one that went off on that ramble.
Most of us here in this chat do, but not necessarily everyone who's watching the stream will.
Guys, before you go on, it's been fun hearing you guys and debate and such, but I got to bail a bit early right now, so it's been fine talking to you.
All right. Good night.
Hey. Thank you. And have a good one.
Dream well.
Thanks. You too.
So, tell us your scheme.
My scheme?
Yes.
I think it should be mandated that with the Electoral College, every state should put in an electoral vote that correlates to the state's votes.
So the popular vote should determine the electoral vote for each state.
No, not necessarily. So let's say a state has like 3 electoral votes.
Mm-hmm.
2/3 of those people vote Republican. That's 2 votes to the Republican Party, and then 1 vote towards the Democratic Party.
Okay.
It's not necessarily popular vote.
But it would reflect the popular vote in the regions each elector comes from?
It still reflects the opinions of the state without interfering with the straight-up popular vote.
Okay.
Is that a fair way to go about it?
I mean, it's certainly an option. It's certainly one way of dealing with it. I know that there are states right now which have laws that require...
There are several states that do that, yeah.
Right. So they do have state laws that require that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really kind of... who was the guy? There was a guy in one of the Great Lakes states in 2016 who had an electoral vote and cast his vote for Hillary Clinton in spite of the fact that the popular vote had gone to Bernie Sanders, right? During the primary. The superdelegate or whatever, not really the same thing as electoral college, but analogous.
Sorry, cut out.
I said it's not quite the same thing as the electoral college, the superdelegate system, but it is analogous in a way.
Superdelegates? Yeah, that... Bernie would have won.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I knew Hillary Clinton wasn't going to win. And then when she was elected as the actual runner-up of the Democratic Party, I knew she was going to lose.
Yeah.
I want $1,000.
I knew she was going to lose too, because she's just that disliked.
I didn't vote for Trump either.
I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Hillary. I didn't vote for Trump. You know, I'm a Green Party member, and I voted for Jill Stein.
I thought the last election was going to be... I thought the last election we were finally going to get a fucking third party in.
I was hoping so, too.
No.
I mean, you've got 2 of the most unlikable candidates in history. Surely the people would vote for a third-party candidate, right? But no, fuck no.
Yeah.
Everybody did.
Yeah, I voted Jill Stein.
I did too, yeah.
Because I thought Gary Gary Johnson was an idiot.
Yeah. But the thing with the vote that actually happened was, I think more of the people who voted for Trump were actually voting against Hillary, and more of the people who voted for Hillary were actually voting against Trump. So it kind of they shot themselves.
Okay, so Tulsi Gabbard actually announced her run for 2020
yesterday. In fact, yes.
She's gonna fucking nail it. Okay, my money's on her, honestly. I have no fucking doubt. She has bitched out other people for saying that they don't know anything about the internet.
Yeah.
She is involved in the internet. She's had a few fun clapbacks at Trump. She's involved with the younger culture. Yeah. She can even get more conservative people because she's a veteran.
Right.
And I don't know. She seems pretty much pro freedom, but still goes for like some leftist policies, which I'm totally fine with. I'm center left, so.
Well, out of the people who have announced their candidacy so far, and I haven't seen anybody do anything today, and I doubt they would do it on a Saturday. But
she's my ticket.
Yeah.
I will vote for her every day. If this was American Idol, I would call that number every 5 minutes.
as far as the people who have so far announced, she's my top pick, and I will vote for her in the Democratic primary unless someone better comes along.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, she seems like she also seems financially conservative, but she wants to implement these programs, which means cutting things and reform and other things in order to fund these other programs. Is something that she's also talked about. So, like, now I'm excited for this next election.
Yeah. But there are still some indications that Bernie may announce as well, and if he should do so, I probably...
Bernie lost when he let the Black Lives Matter gals on stage and interrupt his whole fucking conference.
Well, it was better than having the girl arrested like Hillary did, don't you think?
Yeah, like Hillary, like Hillary, she does everything wrong, like I'm thinking, like, I mean, think about it, if you go...
I wish you would Pokemon go to the polls.
Oh my god.
That offends me as a Pokemon fan.
She is just cringe.
It offends me as a... I'm playing Pokemon Ultra Moon right now, and it offends me greatly.
I would say that if you wanted to describe Hillary Clinton in one word, it would be cringe.
In one word, cringe. In one phrase, out of touch.
If I were going to give a phrase, I would say Machiavellian opportunist. Cringeworthy Machiavellian opportunist, yeah.
Another phrase would be Cringe Lord Supreme. Sorry, Cringe Lady Supreme.
Didn't Hillary Clinton actually say believe all women, but then when people start using Bill...
Yeah.
Yeah, she...
Hillary Clinton is also the person that coined the term super predators when it comes to black people that commit crime.
Yep. Super predators, and what else? Oh, she was against gay marriage until it became politically expedient for her to support it publicly, but she's already stated...
She was against gay marriage until it became legal. It wasn't until after it became legal, or like right before it became legal, that she accepted it. Yeah, that's...
And she's already told us all that, I mean, she didn't tell us all, she told Goldman Sachs that she has to have a public and a private position. We found out through WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
So you don't know what she actually believes. You can't take anything she says as...
Yeah, that, and she had her own private server that she kept in her basement, and then try to wipe all of that.
Mm-hmm. What, with a claw? What an idiot. What a fucking idiot.
Yeah. Doesn't... This is why I like Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah. Of course,
Do what, Ryan?
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, like, see, like, if Hillary Clinton, like, would have, like, arrested that girl, like, that would actually be very bad optics. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like,
Mm-hmm.
see, like, with Bernie Sanders, like, he, like, look, when he tries to say that, like, he actually tries to, like, try to play it, like, cool and when it comes to the BLM girl, but Hillary, like, she's kind of more like, she's kind of like a jackhammer to trying to, like, scrape...
Oh, she's also the reason why a bunch of people died at the embassy in Benghazi.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, but they don't want to admit that, and they just keep on trying to make out like that's a Republican witch hunt and stuff. I'm like, I don't know about that. Yeah, I've been following Tulsi Gabbard on Twitter since I got on Twitter, so I'm following both of her accounts.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so here's my thing about Tulsi Gabbard. She's a woman, and she's a woman of color, so she'll get the far left to vote for her. Her views are relatively centrist. She understands technology and understands how to use it, or use it against other people. She calls out other people in government that brag about not using modern technology. Overall, the things that she's voted on, I am relatively in agreement with. There's a few things in there, but she's voted on a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, a lot of the
Really?
stuff that you would look at and that any of us would look at and think, well, I don't agree with that person on that vote. A lot of those bills had riders attached to them and extra pork and shit stuck in, and they may have been voting against the riders and the extra pork and so forth and not the main bill. I mean, there was a lot of talk recently about how Ocasio supposedly voted to fund ICE after having called for ICE to be abolished.
Oh, no. Oh, wait. The thing she voted against, I'm with her on.
What she actually...
For the most part. There's some things she voted for that I wasn't for.
Well, what I'm saying is the thing that Ocasio was being called out for was actually a vote against something else and to fund DHS, which includes immigration customs enforcement. So it wasn't like she was voting for ICE. She was voting to fund DHS, which oversees ICE, but she was actually voting against something else, which was the part of the bill that she voted against. So, I mean, or voted for, whatever. So, yeah.
So here's the thing with Tulsi, though. She is young, yes. She's also been in the military. That's the thing. She understands, maybe not directly, maybe she hasn't been on front lines or anything like that, but she has brothers and sisters in the military and everything like that, so she has an idea of the trauma that they went through.
Right. Not
necessarily direct experience. That's somebody that I want in the head office.
Right.
Is somebody that understands.
And she's not
necessarily somebody that's been through it, doesn't matter, but somebody that understands.
And she's not top
traumatizing.
And she's not top brass, those guys that sit behind their desks at the Pentagon and don't ever actually so I mean she's actually been there. That. She was, I think her highest rank was major.
Yeah, I was talking to a lot of my military friends, and they were super happy that Mattis was the head of DOD, I think. But then Mattis quit lately, and they're fucking pissed. They're like, Donald Trump fucked up somewhere. Fucked up real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean... No, and Donald Trump also he avoided the draft when he was younger and everything like that, and because he was a rich kid.
Yeah, you know, like the whole Bone Spurs thing, and
it's a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, honestly, I prefer a peaceful person that has been in the military to be the leader of a country. Because they have some sort of understanding. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, like... speaking of, like, the whole, like, Bone Spurs thing, like... You know what? I know, like... I know, like, John McCain is not popular around you guys, and he should be criticized by his neocon policies, but... Hey, hold on. You don't know me. Okay, but...
I might be a lover of John McCain.
I know Liviana doesn't like John McCain because of his policies, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just saying about the whole, like, Trump, like the way that Trump said things about him, like, and seeing that he is someone who actually dodged the draft by using his father's riches, like, it does look like bad optics. Like, we can all agree that is bad optics, considering...
Oh, yeah.
My biggest thing recently, when McCain died, There was a lot of, don't speak ill of the dead, don't speak ill of the dead. And I was like, look, here's what happened. There are a bunch of people who are calling him an American hero, and that's, okay. Maybe I can swallow that a little bit because he was a veteran. He did take part in the war. Blah blah blah. He was a POW. Blah blah blah. And we can discuss exactly what he.
For a long time, he was a POW for a long time.
We can discuss exactly what he did in the war some other time, but I'm not going to push on that one. But the thing that really pissed me off was when you had people calling him a champion for peace, and I'm like, are we talking about the same John McCain here? The guy who never met a war he didn't like? A champion for peace. That takes some fucking gall to say something like that.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
I watched, after John McCain died, I watched Kalinski's video about the subject, and I kind of like it because he does acknowledge both the good and the bad. So you kind of it just kind of, everyone else is taking either the one or the other view on it. See, at least with Kyle Kalinski's take, he at least was balanced. But yeah, I'm thinking if you look at John McCain's history, he is pretty he is still controversial.